In this lecture, we'll learn about objects, like what an object is, how we can use an object in JavaScript, what's the role of an object, and what is the syntax of an object. In the previous lecture, we learned about objects and their syntax, but we did not use them properly. We did not use all of its functions. So in this lecture, we'll learn about it deeply. As you can see here, I'm making a variable with the name a, then we'll put this bracket, and whatever we write here, as you can see, it will be the data of the object. It will be printed as an object. But let me tell you one thing again, that arrays and objects are similar in JavaScript. It uses arrays as an object. So basically, what you see here is an array, but in JavaScript, an array is shown as an object, and the object is shown as an object. But in other programming languages, like the array will be displayed as an array, and the object will be displayed as an object. So there is a distinction. But in JavaScript, we don't really separate them, and we just say that we have like this object in front of us. Alright, so here I'm taking the argument of name, I'll paste Ben, and here we'll write L name, which means like last name. Then I'll put the semicolon, then I'll write Joe, then I'll give the age of 30, then I'll give the email of someone at gmail.com. So I've given an email as well, so now I'll print this using the document.write. Now as you can see, I did this on purpose because I wanted to show you, and I wanted to tell you that whenever you print your object like this on your browser, your object will be displayed as an object instead of its data. So that's what will be displayed. It will be displayed as an object instead of its data. Alright, so for displaying it, there are two ways. If you want to display it, you will write console.log. After that, you can write print a. Now open your console log and see that my object can be seen here. Email, first name, last name, and age, everything has been displayed. But you have done everything on our browser, so we do not need the console log. You can do it by both the document.write and the console log. Console log is used if you write like the wrong codes. If I identify the variable b, you can see it. It's showing like an error. And when we make any mistake, the console log show us the error, that is in which line we have an error. Like which line we have the error, it will show us. Alright, so it's showing us that I have an error in the 18th line, and it's saying that the b variable is not defined. So I've corrected it, and as you can see, my object has been printed. If you want it on your browser, like on your web page, then what's the way to do it? Like how you can do it? We have to write variable, and we will write the date of the object which we want to print. So as you can see, I wrote the dot name, I saved it, and as you can see, Ben has been displayed. If I want to print the last name, it will print. If I want the email, it will print. And that's how you can print the data and the object basically. Alright, now if you want to make an array in an object, then you can do it. First of all, I'll pass an argument, then I'll make an array with the name movies, and I'll print N games, Spider-Man and Doom in it. I save it. If I want to print this array, then what will I do? So here I write movies, and as you can see, my array has been printed. But if you check it in the console, then it will be found in a different way. I'll have to write console.log, and I'll copy it, I paste it here, and now as you can see, that index has been shown as well. It has shown the length and everything. Okay, so I recommend you both ways, but it depends on your work and on what you're trying to achieve, like what you're doing. Alright, so now if you're writing a lengthy code, you should use the console.log. As something, we make mistakes, and it's very time consuming to find the mistakes, so console log will help us to know like where the error is actually located, and yeah, we can run our code afterwards. Like after fixing the error, we can run our code again. Alright, if you want to make a function in an object, this is how you can do it. So here, as you can see, I'm passing an argument with the name of income. I'll write the function, and in function I'll return my value. The purpose of returning the value is that when I print this function, then a value should be printed. So what will I do? I'll print the function income. This is a keyword in a function, and when we have to call any argument in an object, then we use this keyword in our function. Alright, so this means that it goes into this variable. This A is the owner of this variable. We called this owner because the name and the last name have to return to the function with this method. Alright, so if I remove this, then we see that the function is going to run. I think it will show an error undefined, so let's see what happens. And here you go, it's saying last name is not defined and displayed an error. Alright, so if you do not use this method, then it will show an error. If you want to call a function in an object and return a value of a function by the object, then you'll have to use this keyword. Okay, after that we have one more way for making the object, and it's relatively easy. As in this, we're taking everything in the object, which is very confusing. Now I'll comment this, I save it. I'll now make an object in a different way. So I make a variable first, and here I write like new, and you have to write object with capital letters like O. The O is capitalized. Okay, I already told you that it's a very sensitive language, so the JavaScript is a case sensitive language, so if you make any mistake in the spelling, then our code will not run. Alright, so all the things which you have done here will be outside the object as well. So how does it happen? Basically, I'll call first, and after that I'll write first name, I'll write Munib in it, I save it, and after that I'm copying it. I'll change the name to Sajad, and here I'll type the last name as well, and I save it. So now this is the last name, as you can see. I'm defining my age as well by pasting it here, so I define the age of 24. Now what will I do? I'm writing the age here. Okay, so I want to print these three using the document.write. If you want to do it by the console, then you can do it from it as well. So yeah, like whichever you like. And as I'm doing small tasks here, that's why I'm using this way. Like that's why you see what you see on the screen, because I'm doing just a very small task. Alright, so I write first, I'll select my age, meaning that I want to print my age here, then I save it, and as you can see my age has been printed. So if I do the console.log, in the console.log everything is defined well. Let me show you by commenting the above part. So by doing so, we can make our object as well. It's an easier way, as we're making things outside and then we're calling them and storing the data. Alright, so when we need to change things, we have to find them, and this makes it confusing sometimes. For example, like where is the first and last name, and where we have put the print argument, and so on. So making the object combined or separate is up to you. And now I'll save it. So here I comment it, and I'll uncomment this part. I save it, and now you can only see the array because I just printed the array in the console.log. Alright, so I'll print the variable, and now as you can see how beautiful everything is displayed, including the function and what's in the function. And yeah, so we have like pretty much everything that's displayed in front of us. There is no argument, color and length. I just printed name. There is no prototype object. And yeah, so there are all the details of the function in my income. The array movies details have been shown as well. All the details have been shown in the console. You can read every single detail in it, and Yeah, so this is the way, like that's how you can make objects in JavaScript. And now on to the next lecture. Alright, so now in this lecture we'll see something related to objects. How we can use an array as an object. So now I'll make a variable called hello as an example. Now this is the syntax for arrays, but I want to make an object in array, so I'll put a bracket. Now I'll write my name, I save it, and then I specify the age, so let's say 24, I save it, and now my one object is done. So I want to make 3 objects. Now what will I do is the following. So I'm writing Anusha, her age of 30, and next, like the name Ben and his age of 35, let's say. I save it. Now I'll print it. So printing has 2 ways. What I've told you before is that whatever object will try to print, it will not be printed directly. So I'll open it in the console.log. I'll write hello there, I save it, and now as you can see, I open the console log, and yeah, so as you can see, I'm showing my array but as an object. Now we can use an array as object. If I have to make a loop in it, I can make it. So how to do it? Let's see. I'm using the for loop. You already know why we use the for loop. So we use the for loop as it helps in making the increment, the initialization, and the condition in just one line. So I'll make a new variable, and now with this I've done the initialization by 0 and I save it. Alright, so A is less than student, so actually I'm changing the variable hello because it's so much irritating. So now I've given the name std, it means student. I'll use a keyword with the name of dot length so that it comes with the length that I've chosen. So like the first one, then the second, then the third name with print, and we'll do its increment. Then I print the std in the document.write as an array. Alright, so I want to display this array using a loop. The variable I made in the loop was with the name of A, and after A I wanted to print the names which I used. So I wrote the dot name, I saved it. It's showing an error because I did not replace the hello with std. So now I've corrected it, I save it, and as you can see it's been displayed as my loop is also displayed. Alright, so I want to use now the break. I'll concatenate and put the break, I save it, and here you go, it's showing break. So if you want to display their ages here, in this process, first of all, I'll put the concatenate because I want a space. I'll copy it, I'll paste it here, I'll put it in another concatenation, I'll replace the name with age, I save it, and now we can see that the ages have been displayed as well. So this is how we can make object, an arrays, and display it using a loop. Alright, so that's pretty much it. You just have to remember these keywords, knowing how to use them, and you should also remember that our loop should run according to the dot length. And now on to the next lecture. In this lecture, we'll learn about the final loop, which is the for-in loop. We've learned about the while loop, the do-while loop, the for-each loop, and now we'll learn about the for-in loop. So I'll use the for-in loop as an object, meaning that I'll run an object in it. For-in loop, you need to know the syntax of object. Why do we use an object and how to display it? Alright, so I'll take a variable with the name of A, I'll make an object. First name, Ben, I save it, I'll copy it, I'll write last name, John, I save it, and after that I'll take his age, I'm taking it as an example of 25, I save it. So what happened when you have to print A in the document.write, it will not be done directly, it will show us object. We can do it in the console.log, or we have to identify what's the first name and what's the last name. Okay, so you have to check everything one by one. If we don't want to use these things, so basically you'll just have to use like the for in loop. So what is the for in loop? Let me explain it to you in simple terms. So here I'm selecting the for in loop syntax. I'll remove this if part. So here the const is being used by default, so I'm removing it. I'll write variable, I save it. I'm replacing the object with the variable a, I save it. And now I just want to print like my object using the document.write. I'll write a, I save it. And here with a, I'll write key, I save it. And as you can see, my things have been displayed, like the age, the name, and everything else. So if I put a break here, then it will display with a break. I save it. Actually, it's external inverted commas. So the key is present here. What is the key? The name with which we assign our property is known as the key. I've assigned a key with the name of Ben. So how did I do that? I'm calling the first name key. So this statement means that in the for in loop, the variable goes to a. And after going towards a, it finds the keys from the first to the last. So this was my first key. It printed the first name, and the same with the second one, and then the age. Okay, so if you have more points, it will print them as well. So this is how we can print our variables by using the for in loop. Okay, so now I want to print my keys as well. What will the procedure be? I'll write key. I concatenate it and put some space, then I save it, and as you can see my concatenation has been displayed. Putting the semicolons and saving it, we can see how the semicolons have appeared. Alright, so this is how you can print the values of our object by using the for in loop. We don't have to use our values again and again in the document.write. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this lecture, and now on to the next one.